Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson. We're continuing our study of the suffering servant passage in the book of Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 1 through the middle of chapter 56. And God has just declared His greatness, and He's just said, "Is there any other God beside me? Is there any other rock? I know of none." Now, everything that we've been reading is in meter. It's poetry. But now we're going to have a long prose section. Chapter 44, verses 9 through 20. And it needs to be because of the topic, the subject matter. And it reads like an essay, not like a bit of prophecy or a bit of praise. It reads like almost like a humorous essay. I don't mean that there are jokes in it, but I mean the presenting in a very straightforward, jolting way our own cognitive dissonance, because this is about cognitive dissonance. Holding things in our mind that are irreconcilable and yet believing them both at the same time anyway. And the great humorists of the past, Jonathan Swift, Robert Benchley, that's their stock in trade. When Jonathan Swift wrote A Modest Proposal, which was a piece about poverty in Ireland, it's a lampoon, and yet nothing was more devastating to the government at the time than the thing that he wrote, which you'll have to read for yourselves. It's a bit barbaric, but what the British government was doing to the Irish was a bit barbaric too. Anyway, but he used humor to achieve his point. Robert Benchley, under the name Guy Fawkes, would write these pieces in the New York papers, and sometimes even in the New Yorker, in which he did the same. And they were both dealing with our cognitive dissonance. We think we're good people, and yet we do this. And we say we believe this, but we act this way. And that's exactly what Isaiah is doing in this passage. So let's just read it. And it's about idolatry, and there being no other God but the one true God. Those who fashion a graven image are all of them futile, and their precious things are of no profit. Even their own witnesses fail to see or know, so that they will be put to shame. Cognitive dissonance. They just don't see how ridiculous this is, the thing that they believe and the thing that they do. Who has fashioned a god, or cast an idol to no profit? Behold, all his companions will be put to shame, for the craftsmen themselves are just men. Let them assemble themselves, let them stand up, let them tremble, let them together be put to shame. The last passage he said, don't tremble, don't be afraid, I'm your God. But this time he said, you people who think you're making gods, stand up and tremble. The man shapes iron into a cutting tool and does his work over the coals, fashioning it with hammers, working it with his strong arm. He also gets hungry and his strength fails. He drinks no water and becomes weary. Another shapes wood, and he extends a measuring line. He outlines it with red chalk. He works it with planes and outlines it with a compass, and makes it like the form of a man, like the beauty of a man, so that it may sit in a house. Surely he cuts cedars for himself, and takes a cypress or an oak, and raises it for himself among the trees of the forest. He plants a fir. The rain makes it grow. Then it becomes something for a man to burn. So he takes one of them and warms himself, and makes fire to bake bread. He also makes a god and worships it, and makes a graven image and falls down before it. Half of it he burns in the fire. Over the half of it he eats meat, and he roasts a roast and is satisfied. And he warms himself and says, oh, I'm warm, I've seen the fire. But the rest he makes into a graven image, into a god, and he falls down before it and worships it and prays to it and says, deliver me because you're my God. They don't know. They don't understand. He has smeared over their eyes so that they don't see, in their hearts so that they cannot comprehend, and no one recalls, nor is there knowledge or understanding to say, I have burnt half of it in the fire, baked bread over it, roast meat with it, and make the rest of it into an abomination, and fall down before a block of wood. He feeds on ashes. A deceived heart has made him turn aside, and he cannot deliver himself or say, is there not a lie in my right hand? It's just devastating. And he goes into such detail to describe the artisanal work of the blacksmith and the woodcutter and the carpenter. And he talks about, first he talks about the blacksmith, his strong arm, but then again, he's not God. He's got to eat. If he doesn't eat, he can't work. He's got to drink. He continually has to be rejuvenated with the gifts that God himself supplies, or he can't even do his work. And then the woodcutter, he plants a tree. I'm the one who sends the rain. It grows. It gets big enough for him to cut down. With some of it, he makes a fire. And with some of it, he cooks his food. And then he carves the other part of it into a god and falls down. Oh, you're my God, you're my God, you're my God. It's simply ridiculous. But it's not going to change because he has smeared their eyes. He has smeared their eyes over their eyes so they cannot see, and their hearts so they cannot comprehend. Who is he here? I don't know. Isaiah 6 makes God a candidate, you know. They have eyes, but they're not going to see. They have ears, but they're not going to hear. If they did, they'd repent. And that's not going to happen. So maybe the he is God himself. Maybe the he is the maker of the idol. Maybe the he is the devil. I don't know. But there is a willful cognitive dissonance that we humans have, and we will pay the price for it. We will always pay the price for it. And he has been devastating in diagnosing that as our problem here in chapter 44, verses 9 through 20, this long prose section, this essay on idolatry that the prophet has written. Okay, we go back to poetry in verse 21. We'll look at 21 through 23 and talk about redemption the next time. Thank you so much for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.